In all my years on this bench, and we're talking more than 4 decades, I've been called a lot of things. Harsh, fair, compassionate, sometimes too lenient, sometimes too strict. But I had never been called uneducated, not once. Not until that Tuesday morning in April, when Dr. Patricia Morrison's wife walked into my courtroom and decided my background wasn't good enough for her. Let me tell you what happens when someone judges your education based on your job title, and how a single diploma on my wall changed everything. I remember arriving at court early that morning, like I always do. I've been doing that for 40 years. My father used to tell me, Frank, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. So there I was, reviewing the docket with a cup of coffee Christina had made for me. Strong black coffee the Italian way. And then I saw the name, Catherine Morrison. Multiple charges: assault, resisting arrest, contempt of court, disturbing the peace. Now, I already knew the Morrison name. Anyone connected to Providence's medical world knew Dr. Patricia Morrison, chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Rhode Island Hospital. One of the top heart surgeons in New England. Published researcher. Professor at Brown University's medical school. The kind of doctor whose name ends up on medical journals and hospital wings. Her wife, Catherine Morrison, was an attorney. Corporate law at one of those large downtown firms. The kind of lawyer who bills hundreds of dollars an hour and drives a car worth more than most people's homes. That morning, Christina leaned over and whispered, "Judge, this one's going to be interesting." She told me Catherine had refused to speak with the public defender, said she would only address the judge directly because everyone else was, in her words, beneath her level of discourse. Beneath her level of discourse. That should have been my first warning. The case itself began 2 weeks earlier. Catherine Morrison, 48 years old, had been dining at an upscale restaurant on Providence's east side. The kind of place where dinner for 2 costs a few $100s before you even order wine. According to multiple witnesses and the restaurant manager, Catherine had been causing a scene. She was intoxicated, loudly criticizing the food, the service, even the other patrons. When the manager politely asked her to lower her voice, she picked up a wine glass and threw it at him. It shattered against the wall, missing his head by inches. The manager called the police. When officers Jenkins and Rodriguez arrived, Catherine refused to leave. She called them uneducated thugs with badges and told them they had no authority over someone of her social standing. When Officer Jenkins tried to explain that she needed to leave or she would be arrested, she slapped him across the face, right there in front of a packed restaurant. That's when they placed her under arrest for assault, resisting arrest, and public intoxication. But it didn't stop there. At the police station during booking, she went on a full tirade. She insulted the officers relentlessly, called them failures who couldn't get real jobs, said their parents must be ashamed to have raised such low lives. The booking report ran 3 full pages, all verbal abuse. Then she turned to the booking officer, Officer Sarah Chen, a woman with a master's degree in criminal justice and 15 years of exemplary service, and called her an uneducated immigrant who should go back where she came from. Officer Chen is a third-generation American, born and raised in Providence. But Catherine wasn't interested in facts. When she was released on bail the next morning, Catherine took to social media. She posted about being harassed by incompetent law enforcement who didn't understand they were dealing with their intellectual superior. That post was reported to the court, and that's why contempt charges were added. So there we were, April morning, 9 o'clock sharp. The courtroom doors opened right on time. Catherine Morrison walked in like she owned the place. Expensive suit Armani if I had to guess. Designer heels. Perfectly styled short black hair. She carried a leather briefcase that probably cost a couple $1,000s. There was no attorney with her. She had refused representation, claiming she could handle this minor matter herself since she was more educated than most public defenders. Behind her came her wife, Dr. Patricia Morrison. Early 50s, gray hair, kind eyes, and an expression that said she was deeply uncomfortable being there. She sat in the front row of the gallery, looking like she wished she were anywhere else. Catherine walked to the defendant's table and sat down without acknowledging me. She didn't stand when I entered. She didn't show even the most basic courtroom respect that first-time defendants usually understand instinctively. "Rise," the bailiff called out. Everyone stood, except Catherine. She was looking at her phone. "Miss Morrison," I said calmly, "please stand and put away your phone." She looked up at me with mild annoyance, as if I'd interrupted something far more important. Slowly, making sure everyone noticed her reluctance, she stood and placed the phone into her briefcase. She didn't turn it off. She just put it away. "Elizabeth Morrison," I began, "you're charged with assault on a restaurant manager, assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, public intoxication, and contempt of court. Do you understand these charges?" She sighed. Actually sighed. "Your Honor, I understand that there were some unfortunate misunderstandings, largely caused by the incompetence of the individuals involved. I'm here to clear this up quickly so we can all move on with our lives." "These aren't misunderstandings," I said. "You assaulted two people. You threw a wine glass at someone's head." "I threw a wine glass at a wall, Your Honor. There's a difference. And I only did it because the service at that restaurant was abysmal. When you're paying premium prices, you expect premium service. Is it really my fault that the staff couldn't meet basic standards?" I took off my glasses. I don't do that often, but when I do, people know I'm serious. "Miss Morrison, you threw a glass near someone's head. You slapped a police officer. You verbally abused multiple officers during booking. These are not service complaints. These are crimes." She rolled her eyes. "Your Honor, I think we need some perspective. I'm an attorney. I work in corporate law at Henderson and Associates. I understand the legal system better than most people in this courtroom. What happened was a minor incident blown out of proportion by people who are, frankly, not equipped to handle situations involving educated professionals." "Educated professionals," I repeated. "Yes, Your Honor. I have a law degree from Yale. I've practiced corporate law for 20 years. I'm used to dealing with people at a certain intellectual level. When I encounter individuals who lack that indication and sophistication, communication breakdowns happen. That's what occurred here." The courtroom went silent. She had just labeled the restaurant staff and police officers uneducated and unsophisticated in open court. The prosecutor, Michael Foster, stood up, young man sharp, early 30s. "Your Honor, the defendant's attitude is exactly why the state is seeking significant jail time. She assaulted multiple people and then claimed her education placed her above the law." Catherine turned and to him with thinly veiled contempt. "Your Honor, I assume this is the prosecutor. Given his age and the fact that he's in municipal court, I'm guessing he attended a second-tier law school and couldn't secure a position at a real firm. Am I right?" Michael's face flushed, but he stayed composed. "Suffolk Law School, Your Honor. And I chose prosecution because I believe in public service, not because I lacked other options." "Suffolk," Catherine said with a soft laugh. "Yes, that confirms my assumption. Your Honor, this is exactly my point. I'm being prosecuted by someone who likely finished in the bottom half of his class at a second-tier school. How is that justice?" That was enough. "Miss Morrison, Mr. Foster's education and career choices are completely irrelevant to your criminal charges. What is relevant is that you committed multiple assaults and have shown absolutely no remorse." She turned back to me. "Your Honor, I think you're missing the bigger picture. The people I allegedly assaulted are service workers and police officers. With all due respect, these are not highly educated individuals. They aren't trained to interact with people from higher socioeconomic and educational backgrounds. They misinterpreted my reasonable requests as aggression because they were simply out of their depth." "You threw a glass at someone's head?" I said firmly. "I threw a glass at a wall," she corrected. "And I slapped an officer who was grabbing me inappropriately. That's self-defense, not assault." Officer Jenkins, seated in the gallery, shook his head but remained silent. "Your Honor," Catherine continued, "That you don't understand what it's like to be an educated professional dealing with people who lack the intellectual capacity to understand nuance." The restaurant manager couldn't comprehend my legitimate complaints. The officers couldn't understand that I was exercising my rights. And frankly, based on how this court has handled the matter, I'm not confident that... She stopped herself. I looked directly at her. "Go ahead, Miss Morrison. Finish your sentence." She studied me carefully. "Your Honor, I mean no disrespect, but municipal court judges don't typically have the same level of education as federal judges or Supreme Court justices. This is essentially traffic court. It handles minor matters. So I'm questioning whether this court has the sophistication to understand the nuances of my case." There it was. She had just called me uneducated, suggested I wasn't sophisticated enough to grasp her so-called nuanced case of throwing glasses and slapping people. The courtroom fell completely silent. Christina, my clerk, looked like she wanted to speak but held back. Michael Foster looked stunned. Dr. Patricia Morrison, seated in the gallery, buried her face in her hands. "Miss Morrison," I said slowly, "are you suggesting that I'm not educated enough to preside over your case?" She chose her words with care. "Your Honor, I'm suggesting that municipal court judges typically come from backgrounds than judges in higher courts. You deal with traffic violations and minor disputes. My case involves complex issues of self-defense, appropriate use of force, and the intersection of class dynamics and law enforcement. I'm simply not sure this court has the intellectual framework to..." "Stop," I said firmly. "Let me ask you something. Where did you earn your law degree?" "Yale Law School, Your Honor. Class of 1999. And you're proud of that education?" "Of course. Yale is the top law school in the country. My education there gave me the intellectual tools to understand complex legal matters at a level most people simply can't grasp." "I see," I said. "And this Yale education, the one that makes you intellectually superior, this is what taught you it's acceptable to throw glasses at people, slap police officers, and verbally abuse working people?" Her jaw tightened. "Your Honor, you're oversimplifying." "Answer the question, Miss Morrison. Did Yale Law School teach you that your education places you above the law?" "No, Your Honor. But it did teach me to recognize when law enforcement and the courts are operating below acceptable intellectual standards." "Acceptable to whom?" I interrupted. "To you. You've decided that everyone in this courtroom, the prosecutor, the police officers, the restaurant staff, even me, is too uneducated to deal with someone of your intellectual caliber." "I didn't say that exactly." "You said exactly that. For the last 10 minutes, you've told us all that we're beneath you intellectually, that our education isn't good enough, that we lack nuance and sophistication." I stood up, something I rarely do during proceedings. "Miss Morrison, let me tell you something about education and sophistication. Real education teaches humility. Real sophistication means treating every person with respect, regardless of their job or background. Real intelligence understands that intelligence comes in many forms, and a diploma from Yale does not automatically make you better than anyone else." She looked like she wanted to argue, but I continued. "You mentioned that municipal court judges come from different backgrounds." "You're right. We do. I grew up in Federal Hill in Providence. My father was a construction worker who worked 3 jobs. My mother cleaned houses. I attended public schools. I worked my way through college waiting tables and doing construction during summers." Catherine's expression suggested this confirmed every assumption she'd made about me. "But here's what you don't know, Miss Morrison. Here's what you assumed based on my position. Would you like to know where I went to law school?" For the first time, she looked uncertain. I assumed somewhere local. Roger Williams, perhaps. Or Suffolk, like the process school, I said. "Class of 1973, 26 years before you." The courtroom erupted. Catherine's face drained of color. Dr. Patricia Morrison looked up in shock. Michael Foster struggled not to smile. You went to Yale." Catherine stammered. "I did." "And you know what Yale Law School taught me, Miss Morrison? It taught me constitutional law from Professor Alexander Bickel. It taught me justice and equality from Professor Robert Bork. And it taught me that education is a privilege and a responsibility, not a weapon to use against other people. I stepped down from the bench, something I almost never do, and stood directly in front of her table. You know what else my Yale education taught me? That some of the smartest, that most capable people I've ever met didn't have fancy degrees. That intelligence and wisdom are not the same thing. That the janitor who cleaned our dorm had more common sense than half the students. And that respect isn't earned through credentials, it's shown to everyone, regardless of background. Catherine was speechless. You're standing here telling me that restaurant workers and police officers are too uneducated to deal with you. Let me tell you about Officer Jenkins, the man you slapped. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from URI. He's working on his master's degree at night while holding a full-time job and raising 3 children. He volunteers at youth centers, teaching kids to stay out of trouble. And you called him an uneducated thug. I glanced toward the gallery. Officer Jenkins nodded quietly. And Officer Chen, the one you told to go back where she came from, she has a master's degree in criminal justice from Northeastern. She speaks 3 languages. She's published papers on community policing in professional journals. She's forgotten more about justice than you'll ever learn. And you called her an uneducated immigrant. Officer Jant beside Jenkins, her eyes glistening. The restaurant manager you threw a glass at, his name is Marcus Rodriguez. He put himself through college working in that very restaurant. He graduated summa cum laude with a degree in business management. He runs one of the finest restaurants in Providence and treats every customer with respect, even drunk, abusive ones. And you decided he was too uneducated to understand your legitimate complaints. I walked back to the bench. And then there's Michael Foster. I continued. You mocked him for attending Suffolk Law School and choosing public service. And do you know what that tells me? About him? That he cares more about justice than money. That he could have taken a corporate job making 3 times what he earns now, but instead he chose public service. That's not a sign of failure, Miss Morrison. That's a sign of character. Catherine was crying now, not the performative tears of someone seeking sympathy, but real tears of shame and humiliation. Your Honor, she said quietly, I didn't know you went to Yale. I assumed. You assumed I was uneducated because I'm a municipal court judge, I replied. You assumed that anyone in a service job or in law enforcement must be less intelligent than you. You assumed that your Yale degree made you superior to everyone else. Those assumptions say everything about your character and nothing about ours. I sat back down. Miss Morrison, do you want to know why I chose to be a municipal court judge instead of going into corporate law or chasing a federal judgeship? Because this is where real people are. This is where working families come when they can't afford a traffic ticket. This is where immigrants come when they don't understand the legal system. This is where people need a judge who understands their lives, someone who remembers what it's like to struggle and treats them with dignity instead of contempt. I opened the case file in front of me. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Multiple witnesses saw you throw the glass. Body cam footage shows you slapping Officer Jenkins. Booking video shows you verbally abusing several officers. And your own social media posts show you bragging about being intellectually superior to law enforcement. Michael Foster stood. Your Honor, the state recommends 6 months in jail, anger management classes, alcohol treatment, and a formal apology to all victims. Your Honor, please, Catherine began. I raised my hand. Miss Morrison, I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to give you a choice. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. Option 1, you go to trial. With your attitude and this evidence, you will be convicted. You'll likely serve 6 months in jail, possibly more. You'll have a criminal record. Your law license will almost certainly be suspended or revoked. Your career will be over. Her face went pale. Option 2, you plead guilty to all charges. that your sentence will be 90 days in county jail, suspended pending successful completion of 1 year of probation. During that year, you will complete 200 hours of community service, but not just any community service. I looked directly at her. 100 hours will be at the restaurant where you threw the glass. You will wash dishes, clean tables, and do whatever Marcus Rodriguez assigns you. You will learn what it means to work in service. You will learn humility. And the other 100, she asks softly, you will spend them with the Providence Police Department's community outreach program. You will work alongside Officer Chen and Officer Jenkins, teaching legal rights to immigrants and low-income residents. You will use your Yale education to help the very people you once called uneducated. Catherine sat silent for a long moment. Additionally, I continued, you will write personal apologies to every person you insulted, Marcus Rodriguez, Officer Jenkins, Officer Chen, and every officer involved in your booking. You will also post a public apology on the same social media where you boasted about being superior. I paused. If you complete all of this, demonstrate genuine change, and stay out of trouble for 1 year, the charges will be reduced to misdemeanors. You may keep your law license. You may salvage your career. But more importantly, you may become a better human being. And if I refuse, she asked, then we go to trial. And I guarantee you will serve real jail time, not suspended, and your career will be over. Catherine looked at her wife, Dr. Patricia Morrison, who nodded gently. I'll take option 2, Your Honor. Smart choice, I said. But understand this, Miss Morrison. This isn't about your Yale degree, your career, or your reputation. This is about learning that every human being deserves respect. That education is a gift, not a weapon. And that intelligence without compassion is worthless. I turned to the gallery. Officers Jenkins and Chen, do you agree to work with Miss Morrison in the community outreach program? Officer Chen stood. Your Honor, if she's genuinely willing to learn and change, yes. We could use help from someone with legal training to explain rights to people who don't always have a voice, well understand the system. If she approaches it with humility instead of arrogance, this could genuinely help a lot of people. Officer Jenkins nodded. I agree, Your Honor, but she needs to understand she'll be working with us, not above us. She'll be learning from the community, not talking down to them. Miss Morrison, I asked. She stood. I understand, Your Honor. Officers, I want to apologize right now, here in court. I was drunk and angry, and I said things that were inexcusable. My education doesn't make me better than anyone. I see that now. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. One more thing, I said. Marcus Rodriguez, the restaurant manager. Do you agree to allow Miss Morrison to work at your restaurant? Marcus stood from the gallery, mid-30s, composed, dignified. Your Honor, I'll be honest. What she did was wrong, and what she said about me and my staff hurt. But if she's truly willing to work and learn, then yes, we can use the help, and maybe she'll learn that service work is real work, requiring real skill and real intelligence. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, I said. Miss Morrison, you'll begin your community service this Saturday. You'll report to Mr. Rodriguez at 6 a.m. You'll work whatever shift he assigns and complete whatever tasks he gives you with respect and humility. Understood? Yes, Your Honor. And next Monday evening, you'll report to Officer Chen at the Police Department's Community Center. You'll assist with the legal rights workshop, again with humility and respect. Yes, Your Honor. Court is adjourned. Miss Morrison, don't make me regret giving you this chance. As the courtroom emptied, Dr. Patricia Morrison approached me, tears in her eyes. Your Honor, thank you. Thank you for not destroying her. Catherine has been difficult lately, drinking more, becoming cruel. I didn't know how to help her, but this might save her. Save us. Dr. Morrison, I said gently, your wife needs real help, beyond what this court can order. Please make sure she gets counseling for the drinking and for whatever anger she's carrying. 3 months later, I received a handwritten letter from Catherine Morrison. Not typed. Not polished legal language. Just her words. Your Honor, I've completed my first 50 hours of community service, 20, 5 at the restaurant and 25 at the police community center. These have been the most humbling and educational experiences of my life. More educational than Yale, if I'm being honest. Marcus Rodriguez showed me what real leadership looks like. He runs that restaurant with incredible skill, juggling dozens of tasks, remembering countless customer preferences, solving problems with grace. One Saturday night, after 4 hours of washing dishes, my hands were cramping and I was exhausted. That's when I realized I had never truly appreciated what service workers do. I treated them as if they were beneath me, when in reality I couldn't last a single shift in their place. Officer Chen and Officer Jenkins have been gracious beyond what I deserved. They allowed me to help with legal rights workshops for immigrants and low-income residents. I've met people fleeing violence, people working 3 jobs, people desperately trying to understand a system that feels designed to confuse them. I finally understand that my Yale education, the thing I once used as a badge of superiority, I was using as a weapon instead of a tool. I'm not the same person who walked into your courtroom 3 months ago. I'm not fixed, not completely, but I'm better. And I owe that to you refusing to let me hide behind my degree. Thank you for seeing through my arrogance to the person I could become. 6 months later, Catherine Morrison returned to court for her progress review. Review. She had completed all 200 hours of community service. She had been sober for 6 months. She had written and personally delivered apologies to everyone she had hurt. But more than any checklist, she looked different, softer, humbler, unmistakably more human. Your Honor, she said, I want to show you something. She took out her phone and showed me photos. Catherine working in the restaurant kitchen. Catherine at the community center, standing beside a group of immigrants, all of them smiling. Catherine and Officer Chen teaching a legal rights workshop together. I asked Marcus if I could keep volunteering at the restaurant 1 day a month, she said. And I asked Officer Chen if I could continue helping with the workshops. Not because I have to anymore, but because I want to. This work matters more than the corporate contracts I spend my days on. You know what the most important part of this story is? It isn't that I revealed my Yale degree. It isn't that I embarrassed someone who tried to embarrass me. It's that education, real education, is about far more than credentials. Catherine Morrison believed her Yale degree made her superior to everyone else. She used it as a weapon, as proof that she was better than restaurant workers, police officers, even other lawyers who went to so-called second-tier schools. But education is meant to do the opposite. It's supposed to make you more open-minded, more empathetic, more aware of how much you don't know. It's supposed to teach you that intelligence comes in many forms, that wisdom and common sense can be just as valuable as academic knowledge, that treating people with respect matters more than flaunting your R.A. Catherine learned that lesson the hard way. But she did learn it, and she became a better person because of it. If this story stayed with you, remember this: never judge someone's intelligence or education by their job title. The judge in traffic court might have gone to Yale. The janitor might be working toward a PhD. The restaurant server might be a published poet. The police officer might speak 4 languages. Everyone you meet knows something you don't. Everyone has value. Everyone deserves respect. Education isn't about feeling superior. It's about realizing how much you still have to learn. I'm Frank Caprio. I went to Yale Law School, class of 1973. But the most important lessons I've learned didn't come from law school. They came from my father, who worked construction, from my mother, who cleaned houses, and from the people who walk into my courtroom every day, the struggling families, the working poor, the immigrants trying to build better lives. Catherine Morrison once used her Yale degree as a weapon. I hope she continues to use it as a tool, to lift people up instead of tearing them down, to serve instead of dominate. That's what real education looks like. That's what real sophistication is. Court adjourned.